Hello, hello. Happy Thursday. I'm coming on a little bit later than usual. I usually come on at 8 o'clock, but I'm on here at 9. I had a meeting. So, I'm on here at 9 o'clock. For those of you who don't know, I'm Tiana Nichelle. I have conversations every Thursday. We have life conversations, relationships conversations. We talk about an array of topics, self-help, getting healed, mental health. What else? We talk about a lot of different things, but for the most part, hello. I am the empowerment queen. I am here to empower you, have good conversations about community, about mental health, about just different topics. So today, we're just going to get into it. Hello. Today's topic is about acceptance. And I think that in light of all of the different awarenesses, this month is Down syndrome awareness. It's also cancer awareness. It's also bullying prevention month. So there's a lot of things that are going on this month. But I wanted to talk about acceptance. So what I've realized, and even going to these different events where I've saw, because I have a Down syndrome organization and I'm involved in a lot of different Down syndrome organizations. I sit on the board for one. I'm an ambassador for another. And yeah, I do a lot of different things. But going to these different events, I see that it's predominantly white people there. And it's not a lot of us. And then when we get together and we have our conversations, we realize that there is some shame that goes along with our culture as a whole. When there are people in our family that have disabilities, we go into hiding and things like that. And I feel like it's a deeper issue than just that. And so I know that growing up black, every part of your life can be criticized or was criticized, like growing up in a black church. There was things you couldn't do, things you was told you wasn't supposed to do, how you supposed to look, how you supposed to be, dress, conduct yourself. Growing up in a black household, you were given the do's and don'ts of being a black child. But it comes with a lot of judgmental components, which in turn a lot of people, and I know this from my own experiences and being around and having these conversations in different rooms, but a lot of people did not learn to even accept themselves and what they came along with, not even recognizing who they are or understanding who they were. They were so busy people pleasing that they did not, they didn't even accept who they were. But at the same time was being critical of other people, other cultures, other traditions, other people in general, and everything that they come with. And then now you're pointing the finger, but it all goes back to self-acceptance. I find that when you don't even accept who you are, it's hard for you to accept others fully. And so this is the topic for tonight, acceptance. And so the one thing that I do want to say is, when you're not accepting of other people, it actually shows what kind of person you are as a whole, because a part of our human component is to do life with other people, to be in relationship with other people. And if every time you are in relationship with another, there is something wrong with that person. Maybe this person looks like this person is like this. You can point out all of the flaws in everyone else. It highlights to me a bigger issue that you have going on within yourself. But it's like, how can you fully do life with people and have healthy relationships if you are constantly judging somebody else? I find that to be one of the things that's actually happening right about now, like with all of the cancel culture and all of this different stuff that's going on. And we're talking about, this relationship. Let's just talk, for instance, about whose relationship was it this week? Tamara and her, not Tamara, T and her husband, Corey. And people were like, yeah, I know he cheated. I know he did this. I didn't like him, And I'm just like, we don't know. We don't know. Like, we judging somebody's situation, don't even know what's going on. We have no clue. They just said what they were doing. But everybody has come out the bag, out the woodwork with all of the possibilities of what happened in the relationship, which is judging. And we're all guilty of it at times, but it becomes a problem when you can't do life with other people because you're steady pointing out what is wrong with someone. And you're also raising children to have this same ideal of, everybody has to look this way. You should be, this person is not normal because they do this. Or I remember when, growing up, like a lot of times when we heard counseling, we was like, oh, they crazy. But black people taught other black people to say that people was crazy for wanting to go to counseling. That's a white people thing. What else? Even I did a whole conversation on church culture, so we're not going to go there, but it's all tied up in being judgmental and not being accepting of other people. It's more of a, I feel like it's like it's a whole culture that is not ingrained in actual biblical principles. A lot of these churches, a lot of the stuff that these pastors are preaching, because if that was the case, the first thing that you would do is accept someone for who they are. Now, you don't have to necessarily agree with lifestyle or whatever the conversations are. You don't have to share the same thought processes, but at least be compassionate to another person. And I think that that's something that has been lost. And it's really crazy because we just went through a whole pandemic where everybody lost somebody that they knew, where everybody went through hard times, whether you were laid off, whether you was trying to figure out how you and your family were going to do life in lockdown, whether or not you were scared that you all would come out of it, we had all of these different things going on, and there was so much quote unquote unity and trying to get along and understand we are all in this together. And now that we out, everybody done forget everything that just happened in the last 2 years. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to figure it out. But the number one thing that we should be learning is how to accept one another. Whatever phase and stage that someone is at, being understanding of that. I think that when you are truly operating at a level where you want to have a higher esteem, or have a what's the word I'm looking for? When you have a higher sense of self-actualization, and you are aware of yourself and what you contribute, I think you start to see the world a little bit differently. Even in understanding, when you come to that point where you're like, I'm here for a purpose, I'm here for a reason, I don't want to make other people feel X, Y, and Z. You start to have more compassion for other people. And I think that that's something that a lot of us really need to do. And especially in a Black culture, I feel like we're very judgmental. We are the worst ones when it comes to judgment. We could talk about white people all day long, but we judge one another on a consistent basis. Whether it is the skin color, that's number one. We're racist against our own. Where if a person was too dark, a girl was too dark, she wasn't cute. The light-skinned girls was super cute. At one point, light-skinned guys was in. Nobody liked dark-skinned guys, and then it reversed. Where we talk about what somebody is wearing, when 9 times out of 10, most Black people can't afford half the stuff that they got on their bodies. That most of the things that they do wear are not even real because they're trying to keep up, but the whole time they're pointing out what somebody else has on. Oh, what she got on, stuff like that. I feel like we need to stop that nonsense and stop teaching our kids this nonsense, because then they grow up and have this foolishness going on in their mind. And then you have a bigger problem, because now you've done all of this, you set all of these superficial standards, and then you don't know how to have relationships, do life with anybody, build anything with anyone, and you on an island all by yourself. I don't know if that's fulfilling. I think that's why a lot of people are running around here a little angry, just a little out of sorts, because they're not being loved, because number one, they're not giving love. They're not showing compassion, humility, none of those things that embody, even if we were talking biblically, being a Christian, being a follower of Christ. All of those things embody that. And it's a lot of people in church that don't even do half the stuff that's in the Bible, but yet you want to talk about sin. You want to talk about homosexuality. You want to talk about all of these different things, but you're not doing the basis. So, what did you say? Creating a lot of battles within themselves. What do you mean by that? Can you explain that just a little bit more? I think that the church in itself has made a lot of people very judgmental, and that's what I said probably about 10 minutes ago, because of all of these real unrealistic expectations. But at the very foundation, the one thing that we're going against what they know to be right themselves and judging others. That is true. That is very true. But I think that, okay, so with that statement being said, I know that everybody's going through a battle in general. You are battling with what to do the right way, what to do the way that society wants you to do it. And then if you are a Christian or you believe or, in God or whatever, going the way of, what God set out or the way that he intended things to be. So there is an internal conflict that we face all the time. But a lot of times we fall victim or prey to our own desires, because technically speaking, we're going to always have that battle with our flesh. Like the flesh and the spirit is always at war, because we want things that most of the time our spirit is like, nah, you know what I'm saying. But from maybe it is food, Maybe it is liquor, drugs, sex, all of these things that the body desires, the flesh desires. But your spirit is like, okay, this is not in line with what I want to do or what I'm supposed to be doing. So there is that part. But then a lot of people who have these same struggles be pointing out other people's struggles instead of dealing with their own. That part. So you were talking about judging others. That's usually what a lot of people do. Like, they won't deal with their own stuff, but they want to go deal with somebody else's stuff instead of getting them together. Clean up your own mess before you go cleaning up somebody else's mess. And I think that's another thing. Like, it's so much easier to say, hey, you got this wrong with you, instead of fixing what's wrong with you. But that takes a lot. It takes a level of maturity to fix what you have going on, to even recognize what you have going on. And I think that is one of the issues that a lot of people struggle with, is to fix what they have going on. Pulling back, and unveiling hurts and pains and disappointments and all of the things that they struggle with, really dealing with those things, looking at those things, dealing with them by going and getting the help and all of that kind of stuff. I think that a lot of us don't do that, and then we wind up masking it with other things, and then telling other people what they shouldn't be doing because we not dealing with our stuff. It's a lot of different things, but all in all, I think that it comes down to you not accepting yourself. And the most judgmental people are the very ones that do not accept themselves. They have the most, I'm not going to say the most demons, but a lot of them have a lot of issues because they haven't done the work to get themselves together, to love on themselves a little bit harder. And it shows in their character, in the words that come out of their mouth, in their heart posture. Like, it shows. But I think that we glaze right over that. And this is the other thing that, so what I noticed is when I started to work on my own issues, I started to realize that other people had the same struggles. And I started to see people differently. So this is me talking about my own perspective. So I always say that I want to see people the way God sees them, because I recognize that in my own struggles, I couldn't see nobody. Like, it was just like whatever. It was just about me and what I had going on. And I would just be like, okay, whatever. And I wouldn't care about the next person. But now I'm more aware of how other people are feeling or what they are thinking about or what they're dealing with. Because just like I was having a conversation with a friend and I was talking about being like alcoholism. So when I was dealing with some things, I'm not going to say I was alcoholic, but I was on the way. I was on the way, slightly there. We was almost there. But I was thinking about the fact that I'm like, what is the thing that makes people seek, alcohol? Like, we were talking about a certain situation, and I was like, I wonder what that person went through. That's where my head goes now. Because I realized all of the nonsense that I had been through that made me be like, I just need a drink. That's it. I don't need nothing else. And I would drink and drink and drink. And this was a while ago. I was in college then, so it was a while ago. But I I was self-medicating because I didn't want to deal with my stuff. Like, I didn't want to deal with, it was like numbing. So now I think about, okay, you know, what are other people struggling with? Like, what are they going through? And I know everybody is not me, but I think if more people did stuff like that, then the world would be a lot better. People would do a lot of life better with other people. Even looking at acceptance when it comes to people with disabilities. The one thing that I will say is we are all one step away from something happening to us and having some type of a disability, where it's your brain that misfires, because your brain activity, things can happen. That's how, you know, you're like, okay, how did this person become schizophrenic? Or how did this person, you know, how did this happen? Your brain can malfunction and not work the way that it's supposed to. You can wake up and something goes wrong with you. You can go have a car accident and not be the same. Anything, freak accidents happen all the time. You know, anything can happen, and everybody is one step away from being disabled, honestly, if we being honest. And I noticed that our community is harder on people that have disabilities than any other community that I have ever seen. I've talked to parents, I've talked to grandparents, Black, even in my own experience being a sibling of someone with Down syndrome. Like, our community is the hardest on a lot of different things, but yet we point the finger at other communities saying what they do. But when I tell you, those communities accept our disability community, Down syndrome community, more than our own people, that's a problem. That's a major problem. We have kids that are quick to point out what's wrong with someone else. Why? Because parents do it. We have parents staring at kids because they're different. Why? Why are we doing this? When any child could be born with anything. I was reading this study, and even the CDC has the information out there, and so they need to fix that. They need to fix that, and we gonna get that fixed. But they have our misinformation, which, you know, that's the new word now, misinformation. But they have misinformation on mothers who have children with Down syndrome. And it is that they're over 40. You know, they didn't do something right. They don't have the real and then they say that the children are gonna die early and all of this different stuff. So they tell the mothers, you know, that abortion is the best option, which I don't know why we're saying this in 2022, but this is what they're saying. You know, the life expectancy or them having a full life, you know, it's not gonna happen. But it's not true, because most of the moms that I encounter, I'm gonna just tell you, when I went to the fashion show for the National Association for Down Syndrome, those mothers that had brand spanking new babies were younger than me. I'm 38. They were in their 20s, somewhere in their early 30s. So that just blows that stigma right out the water, because I was like, wow, I'm looking around like, these women are young. Like, and it's more common now. It's actually more common to have a child with Down syndrome, but nobody's talking about it. And it's just an extra chromosome that makes it happen. It's an extra chromosome. It's not, hello, it's not where the mom did something just completely outrageous. It's just something that happens while the baby is forming. But the fact that there were so many white people that were there that was just so accepting and so loving, like they were loving on these kids. And it was like maybe four Black families two Hispanic families, and it was very interesting because, you know, in having a conversation, there was another black family that was at my table, and they didn't have any support. They were just like, you know, it's good to see a face that looks like us. And then, you know, they're like, okay, you know, where's your person that has Down syndrome? And I'm like, oh, my sister passed away. But and my mom kind of interjected. She's like, she's on the board of directors. And they was like, and so they're like, oh my goodness, wow, that's amazing. And so they were ecstatic to see a black face in that type of an organization, because it's a predominantly white organization, like everybody white. But the goal is to put some more brown faces there, some more faces that look like this. But we have to work on acceptance in our community in order to do that, in order to further have like communities that have, you know, people with Down syndrome or autism or whatever the disability is, and to have some type of connection and doing community with these people. We have to accept that people are different. And I think that that's one of the things that our culture does not do well. Everybody is different. Everybody's thought processes is different. Everybody looks totally different. God made us all different. And so I just feel like we have to learn how to be accepting of other people, because you know what it feels like to be judged. You know what it's like to not be able to be yourself in certain settings. And then you yourself go and make other people feel uncomfortable because what? They different. And so if you're doing that, it's like, how do you expect somebody to accept you? It don't work. It don't work. You will never have it. You will never have that. You won't even have that in a relationship, because you're too busy finding what's wrong with somebody instead of finding what's right. You're too busy looking at the negative instead of looking at the positive. And I think that goes along with the black culture too, because we've been on the struggle bus for so long with all of the different things that have happened to us as a culture, as a community. And we say all of these negative things because of that. I feel like we've been conditioned to be that way. But it's just like, okay, now, time out for all of that. We're in 2022. We already know that everybody's different. We already know that don't nobody share the same idea. We all know that everybody look different, act different, walk different, talk different. We already know this. So why not take the time to judge less, to love more, to just be a better human being and learn how to accept people for who they are and what they contribute to the world. That part. Because a lot of us grew up not really being seen. Like, we were in a room where we could not have conversations with our parents that was real, or grandparents that were real. We were just there observing and could not connect with them. We couldn't necessarily be who we were because we were too busy thinking that we would be criticized or judged or whatever. And now we grown but adults doing this stuff instead of making things better for the next generation, instead of learning how to accept people for who they truly are, because that was something that we didn't necessarily have. And it's funny because people will be like, well, I didn't have this when it comes to physical things, to maybe shoes or clothes or whatever. But why not give what was intangible, the intangible things that actually mattered, like helping your child to feel accepted, so then they know how to be accepting towards other people, or making them feel good about themselves, or having a conversation about everybody is not the same. You might see people who are like this or like that or like this, and it's okay. We still have to love them the same. They're here just like you're here. We share the world together. I don't know why we don't have them conversations. Those conversations need to be had, because it's so many different things going on, so many different people. You got more babies being born with all types of issues and all of this other stuff. And we have come, to me, supposedly so far, but yet we ain't went nowhere, because we still pointing a finger and judging other people for how they look. I'm like, and I was having a conversation with someone else, and I'm like, why do people care about what somebody's weight is? Why do people care about how somebody's hair really look? Why do we care about this stuff? That's not important. None of this stuff is truly important when it comes down to when it comes down to it. It's not important, because what somebody else does physically to themselves doesn't necessarily affect you. It doesn't. Or how they look doesn't necessarily affect you. But what you should do is love them the same. Encourage them. Pour into them. Just like you will want somebody to pour into you. And if they your friend and they need a little extra help, a little extra push, a little extra boost, then do that. But all of that judging and pointing fingers and not seeing people for who they really are, not being loving, understanding that you can't change nobody, but you can be more understanding. And that's the other part that I really believe, like, it's a lot of people that lack understanding about how to do life with other people. They're not going to necessarily understand everything from your perspective. They're not going to see life from your perspective at all times. But to have an understanding and be able to say, okay, I understand what you're saying. You don't have to necessarily agree, but you understand. Even in swapping stories to what somebody else has been through, having an understanding of someone else's journey. And their journey may not look like your journey, and vice versa. But it's not for you to judge, because everybody's journey is the same, is different. It's not the same. But knowing that everybody's journey also brings them to their purpose. And by you being in their life can make a difference. And that's really what is more important, is when it all boils down to it, it's about the life and the legacy that you leave here. How did you make people feel? When you're gone, what will people have to say about you? Will they be like, oh, they was always cussing somebody out, they was always doing this, whatever. They ain't make me feel like you fill in the blank. Or every time I was around them, I ain't really say too much because they be doing the most. You don't want to leave this earth like that, nor do you want to leave this earth without fulfilling your purpose. And I've talked about this stuff on a live before, but fulfilling your purpose could just be pouring into somebody else who needs it at the time. You don't know how, if you take a step back from whatever it is that you're going through or you're dealing with to pour into another person, you don't know how that would affect them in the long run, or how your story could stop them from maybe killing themselves. Your story or whatever you've been through could stop them from, going out and doing something really crazy to someone else. You don't know how you can really affect them through just stopping and actually taking the time to hear them out, to talk to them about whatever the experiences are that you might have been through. You are probably, if you've gotten through it, then you're stronger than they are. Let's just say that. Because a lot of times people don't make it through half the stuff that we've been through. They don't. Just think about it. I'm pretty sure you got people in your life that did not make it through the same situation that you done went through. So, you're strong enough and you're capable to help somebody else. And that's a part of accepting what you bring to the table as a human being. So accept that whatever the struggle is that you dealt with in your own life is a part of your journey to help somebody else's life. It is not in vain. Your struggle, your whatever you've gone through is not in vain when you are sharing that part of you. Definitely not in vain, because it's for somebody else. It's to help somebody else get through whatever it is they got through. But you have to first accept what you've been through. You have to accept this is your journey, and it's okay. Because that part, I realized, like, that was one of the biggest things that I struggled with in the past. Like, I went through this. Why did I go through this? It's not okay. Why did this person do this to me? Like, I went through some stuff, and I'm not about to have the story hour right now, but I went through a gang of stuff, and I had a horrible attitude. I was bad. I was bad. Like, I didn't care about anything or anyone at one point in time because I was going through my stuff. But once I got through and I started to see things differently, I started to work on myself, I realized, like, this stuff that I went through, it's okay that I went through it because I know I can help somebody else. And I say this even to this day. I know that whatever I've been through, it can help somebody else. I have helped other people, and I still do it. And that's a part of the reason why you're here. It really is. And I don't think we really realize that that's a part of why we are here. It's to really help others in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So in order to help someone else, you have to be accepting of who you are, and you have to be accepting of who they are, and respect the differences, but also help them along the way on their journey. And accept the fact that you're on your own journey. Your journey doesn't look like theirs, and vice versa. You might have some similarities because you went through similar situations, but you're still going on your own path. So I say all of that to say that we have to learn to accept ourselves, where we are, where we've been, and we have to learn how to accept other people, where they are, where they're being. We have to know that everybody does not look alike, does not act alike, walk alike, talk alike. And we have to be understanding of there are different people in the world, and have more compassion for the differences in other people, because you will want somebody to do that for you. So that is my time. I thank you all for coming on here, and for the person that was in the comments, thank you. And I will see you all back here next week. I think that I want to actually do a live on Saturday because there's some other topics that I want to actually dig into. But I just felt compelled to do acceptance because I realized that our community has the hardest time accepting people and truly accepting ourselves. Even looking at people that wait to quote unquote come out of the closet, that goes along with when you were talking about battles within yourself and going against what's right and all of that, judging others and that kind of thing. But that part, like, because you're scared of what other people think or you are having an internal struggle, we just have to accept who we are, because at the end of the day, I feel like this: God loves us no matter what, and we're our worst critics anyway. We are, because a lot of the times people are not judging us as harshly as we think, but they might be judging. Don't get me wrong, they might be judging, but not as harshly as we think. Sometimes we be in our own heads doing all of this different having all these different thoughts that nobody's really thinking about. But we have to really learn to really accept who we are. And I know that that's not something that is taught. I think we need to start really teaching the younger generation acceptance. A lot of them actually have it down, to be quite honest. A lot of them are like, I love me. You ain't gonna tell me nothing else. So a lot of them are getting it, but really accepting people that don't look like them is another thing. Yeah, accepting other people that don't look exactly like them is still a challenge. So I think that we have to do a better job, even being this age, and teaching the younger generation on how to accept people that don't look exactly like them. I think that they've gotten more of self-acceptance down pat than our generation, because we were so, I think we're on the same wavelength as our parents when, we were seen in a sense where we're present but not heard. So really not being seen but you still there kind of situation. So I think that a lot of us are just figuring out who we are, what we want, and the different things that come along with being us, right? Being us as a person. What did you say? Very true. Nobody can be harder on you than yourself. That's true. A lot of us get caught up in our own thoughts, and we need to stay out of our heads. That's all I'm going to say. A lot of us need to stay out of our heads. I've learned to get out of my head because I used to tear me apart, and a lot of people do that. They rip themselves apart. So then when it comes to other people, they can be very critical because they've already torn themselves apart. But I think that we need to be more accepting of ourselves and who we are, learning who we are. If you don't know who you are, I feel like you should, and I'm going to just say this, I'm not going to say feel like, you should pray about that. You should pray about who you are, what your purpose is. Ask God, for real. Seriously, this is no joke. I didn't have a relationship with God before. And I'm honest about that. I ain't been no saint in my life, in my 38 years of existence. I'm not gonna say that I was a saint. I'm not gonna say I did everything right, because I did not. But in these last 2 years since my sister died, I have really had the closest relationship with God that I've ever had in my life. And I've come to some real epiphanies about a lot of things. And so I have found my purpose. My purpose is to empower people. I empower people through conversations, through coaching, through, that's just my everyday. That's just what I do. That's what I do. I do it without blinking, so I do it. But that is what I do. My organization, Empower Society, is empowering people with Down syndrome and other abilities and their families, giving them tools and resources to help them, providing them with information about services. That is what I do. I am the plug on that, and that's that on that. But because I do it effortlessly, that is my purpose. That is a part of my purpose. And the things that I have gone through and I have shared with young girls, my own journey, and they look like, really? I could never see that happening to you. How do you look like this and you've been through that? Like, God, honestly, if I'm being honest, that's who I give credit to, because at the end of the day, I didn't get this way on my own accord. I didn't learn how to do the work on myself. I've learned how to even check myself. So there are times where, I go through whatever I go through, and I've learned how to, okay, get yourself together, snap back. Or even when I've done something that was offensive, I'm like, okay, and somebody's told me I didn't know right away, I'm like, okay, I go back, I double back, I analyze the conversation, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have said that like that. Maybe I should have done this like this. I have learned how to check myself. And even in how I talk to other people, that kind of stuff. Before, I didn't care how I talk to anybody. I would just say what I say and do what I do. And I ain't like, whatever, you deal with it. But you learn, when you have healed, you learn how to operate differently. And you really become different. But with God, it's amplified. I ain't gonna lie to you, it really is, because this was not, all this understanding and even having these conversations was not something that I would be doing. I never liked being on a public platform or being in the front. I was in gospel choir, I stayed in the back. Don't give me no solo. I didn't like anything public speaking. I ain't like none of that. So this is all God's doing. That's all I can say. But even in talking to, other people, and they tell me about what they've gone through, and then I share certain things, and I was never a sharer. I bottled a lot of stuff inside. I had a lot of anger and aggression. I was always cussing somebody out and fighting. Like, that was in my early 20s, that was me. I'm not that person. Now, if you push a button and I ask you not to push a button, and I tell you push the button, and you still want to keep pushing buttons, I might say a few choice words, but I done pre-warned you. So just don't push me. But I try to not be that person, that explosive person. So it's just taking a lot of work, and that's all I'm saying. Do the work. Get a closer relationship with God, so that you can know what you're supposed to do in life while you're here. And it's all attached to you helping somebody. So don't think that your life doesn't matter, because it does. And just accept who you are and whose you are, because God accepts you for who you are. I just on my app, where's my other phone? On my app, I actually had a notification earlier that said you are perfect. And let me see. It's right here. It's right here. You are perfect. I don't even know if you can see it. But this says God made you perfect. And it says you are fearfully and wonderfully made. I don't even know if you can see it. But it's true. And it goes in line with the acceptance. When you accept that part, everything's going to open up. That's the other part. When you accept who you are truly at your core, the world opens up. Opportunities open up. But when you're locked up and you're not accepting of yourself or others or what you have to contribute, you play small. That's the other thing. Stop playing small. Stop playing small. You may not have had all of the experiences that somebody else has had, but you've had some experiences that make you qualify for a lot of different things. So accept that part. Stop playing small. Stop minimizing what you do, what you contribute, and know who you are. When you know whose you are, then you know who you are. And that I'm just gonna leave that with that. Talk to God. Ask him for your purpose. Ask him to reveal what your purpose is, and I guarantee he will. And things are gonna start to align with that thing. He's gonna show you. So that is my time. I will see you all next week. More than likely I'll be back on here on Saturday though. But I will see you all in a couple of days. And you all have a good night. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for the comments. I really do appreciate you all. I really do. Because you are the reason why I come on here every day. Or every week, I should say. Or even when I'm posting, because it is every day. You all are the reason that I do this. Because I truly, number one, value you all, your growth, your potential, all of that. And I know that that's a part of my purpose, is to help you to see you the way that God sees you. So with that, I'll see you later.